Now, Wave News Sunrise.
Good Friday morning to you. We better enjoy this weekend because next week things are changing.
Things are changing in a big way as we head into next week. So for those of you who love cold weather, oh, you're going to love next week's forecast. For those of you that don't, I am so sorry in advance. What we're seeing right now across the area, 40s and low 50s to start off the day, with those low 50s mainly in the metro area, 50 degrees in Jeffersonville, 51 at the airport in Louisville. The rest of us basically sitting in those upper 40s. We're keeping those clouds overhead as of right now, and these clouds are going to stay with us throughout the majority of the day. So for those of you walking your dogs this morning, hey, you're going to be keeping an eye on those 40s, low 50s for your morning temperatures. Going to need the sweaters again. And once we head into the afternoon, notice we're only talking mid to upper 50s for our highs. That is going to be it for us today. Now, the weekend is looking better, adding in some sunshine to the mix with highs near 60 on Saturday, jumping further into the 60s on Sunday. And don't forget, we have multiple alert days in place for next week as we not only watch for the potential for some thunderstorms coming our way, but also the potential for some very cold air and some wintry weather. Olivia?
Wintry weather. We'll see about that. As for your traffic this morning, everything is so quiet. At least we're not dealing with the rain this morning like we have been. Everything looks like it's all dry and really dark this morning. Usually we see some action there at 65 at Arthur Street, but it seems even quiet there right now. So everything so far so good. Doesn't even look like we have any cars pulled over right now. So traffic looking like a good way to start your Friday morning. Shannon.
Thanks, Olivia. After falling more than 10 feet and being pinned under gravel, dirt, and large slabs of concrete, the man stuck under mountains of debris at a Louisville worksite is finally pulled to safety. This whole rescue operation started yesterday after a collapse at the former Community Correctional Center on Chestnut Street. That man was trapped as Louisville Fire and Rescue crews worked for about 8 hours to save him.
It was tremendously brave, but again, it was a highly technical, extremely difficult. We've seen a lot of trench rescues over the 24 years that I've been doing this. I've never seen anything like this.
Louisville's fire chief calls the man very fortunate, and our crew captured video as he was placed on a gurney, rushed to University of Louisville Hospital. That is where Wave News reporter Josh Ninke is live this morning with more. Josh.
Yeah, Shannon, at this point, we don't know a whole lot about that construction worker victim, but we do know that he was conscious and talking throughout the entire operation. The fire chief says he was seriously injured and is now being treated right here. We also don't know what caused the collapse in the first place. The demolition scene in the 300 block of East Chestnut was an old community corrections building. The workers are getting rid of it so it can be turned into a park. The man was trapped in a void space that thankfully had enough air for him down there. It was a very slow operation to get him out, partially because of the type of debris that he was buried in.
This is gravel, this is dirt, these are large chunks of concrete, so you're talking tons and tons of material that has this person buried and pinned, and we're having to slowly dig it out by hand, because every time you move some small bit, you have more stuff that's falling in. Think about a person at the base of a funnel, and that funnel just keeps pouring things down onto them.
As that operation went on, a brave medic went into the hole once they cleared enough rubble so that he could give the man an IV and some snacks. He was pretty hungry. We'll keep an eye on his recovery today, of course. Now, our troubleshooters found that the site had some violations just last month. The Department of Codes and Regulations issued a notice after some fencing and a cooler condenser were damaged. No word of any people getting hurt in that incident. Live here at University Hospital, Josh Ninke, Wave News.
Thank you, Josh. On Monday, the Givaudan Sense Color Company will meet with homeowners and businesses impacted by Tuesday's factory explosion. It's Monday night at 6 at United Crescent Hill Ministries on State Street. Givaudan says it is finalizing plans to help homeowners and business owners who need to make repairs now because of that deadly explosion. The facility also says it's working with employees and the families of those killed to offer support. Mayor Craig Greenberg says Givaudan has established a number and an email neighbors can use to report property damage. That is the number, 1-800-856-3333. There's also an email, and you should reference DDW or Givaudan when you're calling. We also have this information for you on wave3.com. One of the families likely calling that hotline number says their apartment is now condemned after that blast, and now this family of four has to find a new place to live. Craig Wilson and Shelby Dix live with their two children at an apartment complex on Payne Street, just feet away from the factory. They learned that their building is now deemed uninhabitable by the city the day after the blast. They say that after initially offering to help find them another apartment, their landlord now says they can only move into another one of the company's properties if they restart the application process, and that includes paying increased rent for a new unit.
They're basically saying that we're going to have to go jump through all the hoops again. You're going to have to do another credit check. You're going to have to do all this, that, and the third when you just told me the first day that you had a place for me.
Property Management of Louisville, the company that rents out the property, says they're handling the situation internally. When we asked what they were doing to help relocate tenants, and they wouldn't comment further. The couple has started a GoFundMe to help them cover these costs. We're learning more about some of the patients who were hospitalized during that explosion. Baptist Health Louisville says they received 5 patients from the explosion. 2 were admitted for observation, and the other 3 have been discharged. The remaining 2, though, are in good condition, conscious and comfortable. And at U of L Hospital, they discharged 5 of the people who were hurt. 1 is still at the hospital. That person is stable. U of L's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jason Smith, says those hurt were treated for burns and blunt injuries. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives says it is reviewing security video to try to figure out what caused that explosion. The ATF says its national response team is helping Louisville Fire and Metro Arson in their investigation. Federal agents are also interviewing victims and witnesses, trying to determine what caused the blast. Now, the last time the factory had a deadly explosion was in 2003, and it took investigators 11 months to piece together what caused it. Investigators say Louis Perry was drying a batch of caramel coloring when a tank overheated and exploded, and Perry was standing next to the tank and was killed. Louisville Fire said this back in 2003.
The report from the one worker was that the product was leaking down one of the tanks. That's when he went to alert the maintenance supervisor, and that's when the explosion occurred.
A report found the tank had previous damage and a safety valve to prevent overheating had been removed. They also found the company did not have any adequate hazard analysis and no proper training for employees to respond to overheating. A tank of ammonia fell and leaked 26,000 pounds. Witnesses at the time were evacuated, and they recall not being able to breathe because of the smell. Now, after this recent incident, Mayor Greenberg says Givaudan should consider moving to a more industrial area away from homes and businesses.
I think there are better locations in the city of Louisville for a facility like this. There are other locations that are by rail lines that are easy to get to and from, that are not in such close proximity to so many houses. So I think there are better locations to rebuild than their current location.
Mayor Greenberg did say he wants to keep the company in Louisville, though. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is also calling on the company to be transparent about the investigation into the explosion. And a reminder, if you had property damage, city officials say do not remove it. Just leave it there because they need that for the investigation. But you should call MetroSafe and you can report the damage. That number is 574-2117. We'll stay on top of this developing story about that fatal explosion. You can stay up to date by downloading the free Wave News app or go to wave3.com. Breaking overnight, a man fighting for his life this morning after a double shooting. Here's Olivia telling us what we know on this breaking news alert.
This happened late last night, just before 11 o'clock in the California neighborhood. According to police, officers were called to the 1000 block of Dr. W.J. Hodge Street just before 11 last night. They arrived to find 2 men with gunshot wounds. Both were taken to U of L Hospital. One of them is in critical condition. The other is in serious condition, but he is stable and expected to survive. There are no suspects or any arrests in this case yet. And because of the severity of the injuries, LMPD's homicide unit is handling that investigation. Shannon.
Thanks, Olivia. And another dramatic rescue here from fire crews as one person was pulled out of a burning house near Fern Creek. Fern Creek Fire says it happened about 4 yesterday afternoon at a home on Lantana Drive, just outside the Gene Snyder and the Hillview area. Firefighters found heavy smoke and a person unconscious. The victim is critical. The home suffered significant damage and the cause of the fire is under investigation. We're learning more from Southern Indiana deputies about a story we brought to you new on Wave News Sunrise. Human remains found in an area where a woman disappeared 3 months ago. Police were given an anonymous tip. The Scott County Sheriff's Office, Indiana State Police, and Jackson County Police all went to a wooded area near Frog Pond Road Tuesday afternoon. They recovered a body, and they're now beginning to run tests to find out how this person ended up there. The Sheriff's Office says it could be Amanda Martin, a woman who's been missing for months.
These human remains were located in an area. Obviously, for the last 3 months, we've been looking for Amanda Martin. We've made several videos on looking for Amanda. Until we can get a positive identification, we cannot say that that is, Amanda. So at this point in time, we still have an active case for a missing person on Amanda Martin.
Investigators will complete an autopsy and forensic testing at the site where the body was found. An update on the relocation of people from Dosker Manor. Nearly 200 have now been moved out of that building. 175 people have been moved out of Dosker Manor. Social workers have helped 44 find clinical services for mental health, and the rest have received some strength-based case management. The Louisville Metro Housing Authority says their top issue right now is dealing with relocation stress with the residents and getting people the services they need. This whole process to relocate people is expected to take up to 18 months. A grand opening today for a new facility bringing hundreds of jobs to Louisville's West End. There will be a ribbon cutting at the Stellar Snacks Pretzel Factory on Dixie Highway near Wilson Avenue at noon today. Stellar Snacks invested more than $130 million to the project. Governor Beshear will be there to help usher in the new business. When the factory was first announced, company leaders said the average pay would be $30 an hour and create 350 new jobs. Here's Tawana taking a look at the next 12 hours.
And as we head over the next 12, we'll be watching for those cloudy skies and highs only in the 50s. Now, we'll see some sunshine, more of that coming our way as we get into the weekend. And then we'll talk about some rain and the potential for some highs only in the upper 30s and low 40s for the end of next week. I'll break down the multiple alert days we have on the way after the break.
Well, those colder temps are coming. That means our cars need to get ready, too, for winter. We'll tell you some things you can do to make that happen.
We have 2 individuals who are dead, whose families are mourning, and a lot of others that are hurt.
Kentucky's governor calling on the company to give answers to the victims in the Clifton explosion this week. More on what he said ahead on Wave News Sunrise.
Now, Wave News.
Well, the holiday travel season is ramping up with millions of travelers set to pass through security checkpoints. The TSA is sharing 10 things travelers need to remember to simplify the screening process. So the first, don't forget the ID. Might be hard to believe, but TSA says people really do say that they left their ID at home. Also, leave the weapons behind. No drinks. Make sure any reusable water bottles are empty. And remove everything from your pockets, not just those metallic items. Also, remember you can bring medications, but you need to let an agent know if that medication is liquid. Maybe you're heading someplace warm for next week. If so, Tawana and I are very jealous.
Oh, 100%. But keep in mind, we do still have hurricane season going on. So I do have a couple of friends who are thinking about heading to Cancun. And y'all, if you're watching, make sure you're watching Tropical Storm Sarah. What we're seeing right now across our area right now, though, we are seeing the clouds overhead. So a gloomy start to the day. This area of low pressure is still nearby. It's been the thing that's been responsible for the rain that we've seen for the past 2 days, and it's going to be responsible for those clouds sticking around throughout the day today. We're still seeing those clouds also on our SkyTrack camera as we look into downtown Louisville. Temperatures are sitting in the 40s for most of us, a little bit warmer in the metro area. So we're seeing, of course, 51 degrees at the airport in Louisville, 50 for those of you in Jeffersonville, and also 50 right now for those of you in Frankfort. As we head over the next 12 hours, with the clouds overhead, we're going to do our very, very best to warm up, but not getting very far, with highs only in the mid to upper 50s. That's it. For tonight, still keeping those clouds overhead, falling down into the low 40s in most spots. Now, for some of you who get a little bit of clearing overnight, you can see some of those upper 30s for Saturday morning, but mainly talking about 40s to start off tomorrow. By your Saturday afternoon, highs near 60, a mix of sun and clouds. Starting off with some sunshine on Sunday, adding back in some of those clouds for the second half of your Sunday. We're going to keep those clouds overhead on Monday as temperatures continue to warm further into the 60s. We have multiple alert days in place for next week. One for Tuesday, and I've added one in for Thursday in addition to the one on Friday. For Thursday and Friday, we're not just keeping an eye on really this precipitation potentially moving through our area, but also the colder weather, the windy conditions in the region, and the impact that the combination of all of those things can have. But of course, we're first watching Tuesday, the alert day, because of the rain moving in. As of right now, it looks like things are speeding up a little bit more. So more of Tuesday morning. It's around midday on Tuesday. Looks to be impacted by some of these showers and thunderstorms, some of which could be on the stronger side, keeping an eye on that. Once we get into Tuesday afternoon and evening, we'll dry out, staying dry into Wednesday morning before another system arrives. This one will bring some rain for the second half of your Wednesday into early Thursday. Here's the thing, though. Temperatures look to drop down into the 30s for Thursday morning. So that means some of that rain may switch over to even some snow and a wintry mix once we get into Thursday morning. And that certainly can impact that Thursday morning commute. Now, with this low still nearby for Thursday into Friday, we could still run into some issues as we get towards the end of next week. This is going to be on top, of course, of the colder air moving into our region, and also talking about highs in the 40s to end next week. So it's going to be cold, blustery, a little bit more winter-like as we're ending next week, hence the alert days in place. Now, once we get beyond that system, we'll get to enjoy not just the cooler weather, but also some sunshine for the following weekend as we gradually climb back into the upper 40s to near 50 degrees for a high. We'll have much more of sunrise after the break.
Here's a look at the current Kentucky Lottery jackpots. The Kentucky Lottery, over $5 billion in grants and scholarships.
It's going to be cold next week, and it's a good time to make sure your vehicle is ready for the winter. Colder weather can impact how your car works, so make sure the maintenance is up to date. Experts say check the tire thread, make sure that, or tire tread rather, make sure that the tires can navigate slick roads. Also, it's a good idea to have a spare tire and make sure your car battery is not corroded.
At like 50 degrees, maybe your battery's working at 100%. If it drops down to 0, it's functioning at about 40% of normal. So you've lost 60% of your cold cranking amps. So a battery that tests fine and starts your car on a nice sunny day, you come out when it's 0, it may not start.
AAA Bluegrass also says have a shovel, an ice scraper, and an emergency kit with warm clothing in your car during the colder months. And it is going to get cold starting next week.
Yeah, very quickly. So we're going to go from highs near 72 degrees on next Tuesday down into the low 40s by the end of next week. It is going to be a wild ride, that is for sure. So that means let's just enjoy the cool temperatures we got for today with the clouds overhead and highs in the 50s. We'll warm up through the 60s over the weekend, and then, as I mentioned, seeing those highs in the upper 60s and low 70s on Tuesday as we watch this cold front moving towards us, bringing the potential for more showers and thunderstorms, keeping an eye on the potential for some stronger thunderstorms with that front moving through on Tuesday. Now, after a little bit of a break Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, here comes another system bringing some more rain for the second half of your Wednesday. Now, as temperatures drop down into the 30s Wednesday night, this is when we could see more of that potential for some wintry weather towards the end of next week. The timing of this system and the track of this system will be key to what we see. So don't be surprised if you see the really precipitation chances, these temperatures for the end of next week changing a bit because this forecast is still evolving. Once we get beyond that, we do look to see some sunshine for the following weekend, but temperatures staying on the chilly side.
Thank you, Tawana. President-elect Donald Trump has selected Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be the next Secretary of Health and Human Services. Trump made that announcement on his Truth Social platform. It comes after Kennedy suspended his 2024 bid for the presidency and gave his endorsement to Trump in the final months of the campaign. Kennedy is an outspoken vaccine conspiracy theorist and has often repeated false claims about childhood immunizations. He also founded the Children's Health Defense. That's a leading anti-vaccine group. The position requires Senate confirmation. More interest rate cuts are likely. This is according to Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Powell suggested the cuts might not be that much lower over the next few months. He says more potential cuts are because the economy's current trends and dynamics are expected to remain in place. That includes a slowing job market and cooling inflation facilitated by rates that are still at restrictively high levels. Holding borrowing costs at their current elevated rate could push up unemployment. We're getting a better idea about how small businesses in the country are doing. The Biden administration says since 2021, more than 20 million small businesses have submitted applications. That equals out to more than 440,000 applications a month. The White House economic explains what's behind the surge in applicants.
I think the data is quite clear. The approach that that the Biden-Harris administration has followed for the last 4 years has created unprecedented new business creation. And so, we are hopeful that the incoming administration will, take that win and continue those policies, because, it really shouldn't be a partisan question or a political question. Folks who are starting small businesses who might need a little bit of help from these government programs, like when we can do it, we ought to do it.
Well, the White House notes applications from women and minority business owners are also on the rise. It's 6:26, and coming up, a construction worker recovering in the hospital this morning after being buried under rubble for more than 8 hours as crews work to rescue him. We'll have a live report coming up.
Now, Wave News Sunrise.
Hey, good Friday morning to you. Thanks for waking up with us here. And Tawana has a lot to talk about with the weather for especially next week.
Yeah, next week, be kind to your meteorologist, because we have a lot to look at least for the next few days, though, we get to relax a little bit. Kind of like the calm before all of the storms we're going to be dealing with. The storm tracker out on the roads right now, traveling through downtown Louisville. Not much going on there weather-wise or for most of our region. In fact, we just have the clouds overhead, and that is it. We're going to keep these clouds for most of the day, and that's going to hamper how much we can warm up. As of right now, we're still in those 40s and low 50s. It's been very difficult for us to cool off because of those clouds overhead, and it's going to be difficult for us to warm up heading into the afternoon because of those same clouds overhead. So we're going to keep it cloudy throughout the day with highs only in the 50s. That jacket certainly still will be necessary, as will be the wave weather app, especially as we look ahead to next week. But at least for the weekend, we'll see some sunshine getting through the clouds with highs near 60 on Saturday, jumping further into the 60s on Sunday. And then we have the multiple alert days in place for next week as we watch not just the chance for some storms in our region, but also looking at a big cool down, some wind, and the potential for some wintry weather.
Yeah, so enjoy this weekend's weather while we have it, I guess. And enjoy this traffic while we have it, because everything's looking clear right now. Not even seeing much at 64 at the junction, even on our Indiana and Kentucky bridges. Just so quiet. Our speeds are looking like normal. And taking a look at our traffic map, everything seems to be all green. Doesn't look like we have any crashes or stalled vehicles to tell you about. But a heads up here, you should expect some delays in a heavy construction zone this weekend. It's around the Snyder and I-64. So starting at 8 o'clock tonight, I-265 northbound over I-64 will be down to one lane. That'll reopen by 6 a.m. Monday. Then 64 westbound from the Snyder to Blankenbaker will also be down to one lane, but that will reopen sooner, around midnight on Saturday. But we know, again, this is a heavy construction zone, so people are already used to delays. Expect even more. Shannon.
Thanks, Olivia. A construction worker buried under rubble for more than 8 hours in downtown Louisville is recovering in the hospital this morning. He had some serious injuries, but officials say he was conscious throughout this entire ordeal. Wave News reporter Josh Ninke outside the U of L hospital this morning with more. Josh.
Yeah, Shannon, at this point, we still don't know a whole lot about the man who's recovering here, but we do know a structure collapsed and he fell about 12 feet into a void space. This all happened shortly before noon yesterday. A Louisville fire then had to do what's called a trench rescue. That's where crews have to dig someone out of a space and brace up the sides as they go along. And this is a pretty dangerous operation. There's potential for things like cave-ins and another collapse. It was also pretty chilly yesterday, so crews were pumping hot air down into the hole to try to help keep him warm. The fire chief says the man even helped them by moving some debris as he was down there. The chief, though, said he's very proud of his firefighters' work.
A tempered celebration because it was a tragedy in the first place. But yes, this is what our firefighters do. This is why we took this job. We want to help people. And it's not like the movies. You're not always successful. So when you have a success like this, it is a tremendous feeling. And you're not going to see it. All it was is at that moment, once he actually got out, it was a quick, just a nod and a little fist bump around the pile there, knowing, hey, we got one.
And for some background here, the demolition site was the old community corrections building. It was being destroyed, or still is being destroyed, to make way for a brand new park. Now, LFD has had a huge year. First off, earlier in the year, they rescued that driver of an 18-wheeler that was dangling over the Ohio. Of course, just this week, they were involved in fighting what happened with that plant explosion in the Clifton neighborhood. I want you to know we will continue to follow the recovery of the victim here and bring you more information as we find out. Live here at University Hospital, Josh Ninke, Wave News.
Thanks, Josh. Now more on that explosion. The company, Givaudan, will meet with homeowners and businesses impacted by Tuesday's explosion. This is Monday night at 6 at United Crescent Hill Ministries on State Street. Givaudan says it is finalizing plans to help homeowners and business owners who need to make repairs now because of the fatal explosion. The facility also says it's working with employees and the families of those who died to offer support. Mayor Greenberg says Givaudan has established a number and an email neighbors can use to report property damage. It's on your screen right now. He also says reference DDW or Givaudan when you're calling. We also have this information for you on wave3.com. Governor Beshear says he wants to get more answers from Givaudan about what happened Tuesday.
We have two individuals who are dead, whose families are mourning, and a lot of others that are hurt. To operate where they operate, they need to be out in that community telling people first what happened, or telling them that they're committed to finding out what happened, and then to be fully transparent about it, because we're certainly going to be.
The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives says it is reviewing security video to figure out what caused the explosion. The ATF says its national response team is helping Louisville Fire and Metro Arson in the investigation. Federal agents are also interviewing victims and witnesses to try to determine what led to the blast. And debris from the explosion is still littering parts of that Clifton neighborhood. MetroSafe supervisors say they've gotten 60 calls from people living near the factory about metal scraps or damage caused by the explosion. MetroSafe is asking people to avoid touching the debris because they need to examine it for their investigation. You can report debris by calling 574-2117. And Quill's Coffee Shop reopened yesterday after the shop's windows were blown out during the factory explosion. This is what it looked like when we stopped by their location on Frankfort Avenue. All of the windows now replaced after shattered glass riddled the sidewalk after the blast. Other nearby businesses also had glass shattered, including Osaka Japanese restaurant. Again, officials trying to determine what caused it. For the very latest on this developing story, you can download the free Wave News app. We'll stay on top of this on the app and online and on air. Everyone safe after a business fire yesterday morning in the Watterson Park neighborhood. It happened on Jennings Lane between Poplar Level Road and Newburgh Road behind the Louisville Metro Animal Shelter. Officials say it took about 30 firefighters half an hour to put out the flames. They say started with a heating unit. A new Kentucky report says Kentucky needs to build more than 200,000 new homes to fix a housing shortage. The report comes from the State Legislative Research Commission, which created a 10-person task force to study and review Kentucky's current and future housing needs. The task force found the state is short 206,000 rental and housing units. The report says the number of people who spend 50% of their income on housing costs is going up. The task force cites a construction deficit and costs as a reason for the shortage.
A lot of people left the trades during the financial crash of 08, 09, 2010 and didn't come back. There's a lot of fees associated from the very beginning of the development stage with the raw land to get buildable lots. And then there's more fees associated for the builder on their end to produce and build the home.
Much of the missing units are what is considered middle housing. That includes townhomes, multiplexes, and other types of dense housing units. A Frankfurt task force is recommending ways for the state to protect itself from artificial intelligence. The task force says artificial intelligence is becoming more advanced and being used more in the private and public sector. The task force recommends state lawmakers create bills that define artificial intelligence, also create a framework for ethical AI usage, review laws related to individual likeness, and urge the federal government to regulate AI. During his first administration, President-elect Donald Trump enacted tariffs on steel and aluminum from the European Union. Now there are concerns about these tariffs possibly coming back. The tariffs led to taxes on U.S. products, including a 25% whiskey tariff, and that caused American whiskey exports to drop by 20%. The Kentucky Distillers Association says the nature of the industry makes it more difficult to adjust to sudden major changes.
The blessing and curse of bourbon is you can't make it overnight. And so the bourbon that's being laid down today is not going to be available until 2030 or beyond.
And they also say that the tariffs this time around could be as high as 50%. Here's Tawana taking us through the next 12 hours on this Friday.
And as we head over the next 12 hours, our temperatures will warm only into the 50s for your highs as we keep all of those clouds overhead. So things are going to be quite cool for today. Now, once we get towards the end of next week, we're talking about straight up cold weather coming into the forecast. I'll break down our rain chances and, of course, talk about the cold and the windy weather coming our way after the break.
Well, safe to say everybody loves their dogs, but nobody loves picking up their dog's poop. Now a Minnesota man has used some technology to make it easier. Caleb Olson says it was an idea that came out of necessity because he was sick and tired of picking up the dog's poop, so he created what he's calling the Poop Copter. He says it's never been done before, so it's a drone-like machine. It hovers over the grass, it detects the brown parcel, and then goes down, scoops it up. Ta-da!
The biggest reward is actually picking up a poop. There's a little dopamine hit of feeling like you've made progress.
So right now this Poop Copter is in the beginning phases of design, but he hopes one day to make it a product that anyone can buy to take care of it. And you know what? I would also say that this time of year, it is really hard to pick up dog poop because there's so many leaves on the ground, and so it's hard to, you know, it's a problem that many dog owners have.
I find this ingenious, but I'm also like,
just
one,
pick it up.
what if the blades blow the poop around? Two, this is now flying poop. So I don't
flying
know.
Poop. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the prototype needs a little bit of work, but I love the idea.
I love the idea.
I do love the idea because nobody wants to do that, especially when it's cold.
I know.
Outside,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So we'll talk about the colder weather coming our way for next week, especially. Find those coats now. I'll talk about it in just 30 seconds. Good morning, meteorologist Tawana Andrew here with a check of your forecast. What we're seeing right now, quite a few of those low-level clouds just blanketing the area to start off the day, all because of this system off towards our northeast. It's the same area of low pressure that was responsible for the cold front that moved through earlier this week that brought us to several days of rain. Now we're just talking about, of course, the clouds overhead. We're seeing them on our SkyTrack camera in downtown Louisville. Temperature-wise, we have not budged very much this morning, and that's because of those clouds overhead keeping us from cooling down. So we're sitting in the 40s for most of us right now with some low 50s showing up for those of you in Jeffersonville, Frankfort, and in portions of the Louisville metro. As we head over the next 12 hours, going to do our very, very best to warm up, but overall going to end up only in those mid to upper 50s. And by the way, those upper 50s are mainly for the Louisville metro. Everybody else is going to be in the mid 50s for afternoon highs. With those clouds still overhead for tonight, will only fall down into the low 40s, and that is it getting into your Saturday morning. But here's the thing. Those clouds are going to break apart as we head throughout portions of your Saturday. That means some sunshine coming back into the mix over the upcoming weekend, and that is why we're going to warm up to near 60 for a high on Saturday, jumping further into the 60s on Sunday, adding in more clouds as we head towards Monday, but still seeing a strong southerly wind to drive us further into those upper 60s for your highs then. We have several alert days in place for next week. So let's talk about the first one, the one for Tuesday. That comes with a cold front, bringing that potential for some showers and thunderstorms, since some of these thunderstorms could be on the stronger side, and the timing looks to have this moving through for the morning, while a lot of us are going to be heading to work and to school. We have that alert day in place. Once we get into your Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night, any showers and thunderstorms move out of the region before we see our next system arriving. This one actually shows up on Wednesday. The timing has things speeding up a little bit more as these systems traverse the Ohio Valley, so we'll see some of that rain moving in for the second half of your Wednesday. And with the rain across our region, plus temperatures falling down into the 30s for Wednesday night into Thursday morning, we could end up with a situation with some parts of wave country getting in on a little bit of wintry weather. Now, this low stays with us throughout the day on your Thursday and even into portions of Friday. So the impacts of this precipitation will be something that we'll have to watch. And by the way, on top of that, we'll have those temperatures on the colder side for the end of next week, with a lot of those 40s for highs and 30s for lows. So even while we may not see a lot of precipitation, those temperatures can enhance what we deal with. And it's going to be windy for the end of next week too. So a lot to watch towards next Thursday and Friday. Just have the Wave Weather app ready to go, because we'll be updating everything there first before you even see it on air. Now, once we get towards the following weekend, it looks like things will significantly calm down and get those highs back into the 40s and even some low 50s across the area. So a lot to watch over the next 10 days. Stay weather aware and enjoy the quieter weather while we have it right now.
Thanks, Tawana. New on Sunrise, a federal panel of judges is allowing an Indiana law that bans gender-affirming care for minors to remain in effect. The U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled the law does not infringe on the constitutional rights of transgender children, their parent, or medical providers. The law was previously scheduled to take effect in spring of 2023. A judge issued an injunction allowing children to still access hormone therapies and puberty blockers. The new ruling vacates that injunction entirely and allows state officials to enforce the law. A spokesperson for the ACLU of Indiana says it's weighing options when asked if they would appeal the decision. A man police say held a woman at gunpoint in a Walmart pharmacy drive-thru will not get a lower bond. A judge denied Randall Allen's request to lower his $50,000 bond, citing concerns about community safety. Allen's lawyer argued he needed to enter a substance abuse program. LMPD says Allen and Jeremy Bozarth led officers on a chase in August. Police say Allen got out of the car, ran into the Fairdale Walmart with a gun, then ran out of the store and jumped into the van of a woman who was waiting in the pharmacy drive-thru. Police shot Allen after ordering him several times to get out of the van. Bozarth pleaded not guilty to his charges connected to the case and was given a $15,000 bond. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is recognizing the impact the Blue Oval battery plant could have on Kentucky. This week, he joined Blue Oval SK executives and Elizabethtown community and technical college faculty to tour their training center. The center will provide training for 5,000 jobs at the battery park in Glendale. Blue Oval has already hired 750 workers.
This game changer is here. And it's now impacting people's lives directly, who are able to get meaningful employment, provide more opportunities for their kids, and work in an industry and in an area we know is going to be here for decades to come.
And you can fill out a job application at blueovalsk.com. A listing shows Mid-City Mall in the Highlands neighborhood is up for sale. The property is 11 acres. It has various businesses, including Baxter Avenue Theaters, the Caravan Comedy Club, Ramen House, and more. There's not an asking price for the property, but it asks interested buyers to submit their offer. Let's check in with Olivia, taking a look at the big stories we're following from around the country and the world.
The trial of the undocumented migrant accused of killing Georgia nursing student Laken Riley is set to begin this morning. The slaying ignited fresh debate over the border crisis and garnered national attention. On February 22nd, 22-year-old Laken Riley was out for a jog on the University of Georgia's campus when she was killed. The suspect, Jose Antonio Ibarra, waived his right to a trial by jury and agreed to a bench trial, so his fate is now in the hands of a judge. Ibarra pleaded not guilty to 10 counts, including malice murder, 3 counts of felony murder, and aggravated assault with intent to rape. Today is the deadline for Rudy Giuliani to turn over property and financial records to the 2 election workers he defamed. He was initially supposed to turn everything over by October 29th, but he didn't. Now his lawyers are trying to quit his defamation case because of disagreements with him. Giuliani's attorney told a judge they must end their representation because of ethics rules. And Mike Tyson hits the boxing ring tonight in his first professional fight in more than 19 years. He's taking on that man right there, 27-year-old YouTuber turned fighter Jake Paul. Now that fight is set to stream on Netflix at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I know a lot of people will be watching. Interesting to see how that will pan out for both of them. Those are some of your top headlines. Shannon will have more local news coming up in your Wake Up Watch list.
We're following today's top stories in the Wake Up Watch list. A man fighting for his life at the hospital after a double shooting in Louisville. Officers were called to Dr. W.J. Hodge Street just before 11 last night. They found 2 men shot. Both were taken to U of L Hospital. One is in critical condition, the other serious, but he's expected to survive, and police do not have any suspects. After falling more than 10 feet, being pinned under gravel and dirt, a man is pulled to safety at a work site at the former Community Correctional Center on Chestnut Street. He was rushed to the hospital where he's recovering. That rescue took firefighters more than 8 hours. The Givaudan Sense Color Company will meet with homeowners and businesses impacted by Tuesday's factory explosion. They'll do that Monday night at 6 at United Crescent Hill Ministries on State Street. Givaudan says it's finalizing plans to help those impacted and offer support they need. And a grand opening today for a new facility bringing hundreds of jobs to Louisville's West End. There will be a ribbon cutting at the Stellar Snacks Pretzel Factory on Dixie Highway near Wilson Avenue at noon today. Stellar Snacks invested more than $130 million in this project. Here is Tawana right now, and how's it looking for the weekend?
It's looking better once we head into the weekend, but right now our storm tracker looking at the bridges from Indiana, looking at Kentucky. You can certainly see how things are cloudy to start off the day, watching more of those clouds overhead on our satellite and radar, but temperatures in the 40s for most of us, some low 50s showing up in the metro. As we head over the next 12 hours, climbing into the 50s for your highs, so your what to wear forecast really focused in on the jacket for today. And of course, that wave weather app as we watch our temperatures doing their best to try to rise. Now, as we continue throughout the next 12 hours, we'll also talk a little bit more about the rain staying outside of our region, the sunshine coming our way as we head towards the weekend as well, with some highs in the 60s for your Saturday and Sunday.
We have a traffic alert for drivers in southern Indiana. A report of a crash on I-265 eastbound between Charlestown Road and 65. Looks like it's already slowing down traffic in that area. Around the rest of the metro, though, everything is looking all green. If we take a look at our metro traffic cameras, you can see our speeds pretty typical. Everything just so quiet. I always say on Fridays, I'm surprised it's usually so quiet. I guess some people can work from home on Fridays.
Very
some people
nice.
have that option.
Yes, yes. Festival of Trees and Lights starts tonight. It's at Louisville Slugger Field. Tons of beautiful trees, and all the money benefits Norton Children's Hospital. And if you go, make sure you check out the Imagination Library tree. It is so beautiful.
It has all those books on it, you said.
Yes, tons of books.
I love that.
Yes, it's wonderful. Hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for waking up with us, and we'll see you on Monday.
Get live streaming news, 24-hour weather, investigations, podcasts, and more, all for free with Wave Now. Watch on Roku.